Hello folks, it's Charlie Westeros here, and I am back at long last, once again, with a Game of Thrones discussion video, or I should say a Song of Ice and Fire discussion video. I'm here today with Bilal.
Hi.
Of course. Today we are going to discuss a bit of a new topic, I think. It's going to be those characters who we haven't really seen in a long time in the books, or seem to have disappeared, and we don't really know if they're still alive, what their whereabouts are necessarily, so on and so forth. So basically it's going to be just small discussions of each character and, give you guys our little thoughts and ideas, and of course, hopefully get some semblance of an idea of where they are, what they're up to. And of course, this video contains spoilers from the book series, A Song of Ice and Fire, so if you have not read the books, or at least haven't finished the books, we suggest you turn away from this video now. So I guess without further ado, we should get going into this discussion, right?
Yeah, sure.
So I think we should probably discuss first and foremost the characters who are north of the wall. So that would be these two Stark characters, which is Benjen Stark and Rickon. Let's just start with Benjen though, to start off with, because I think he's one of the first characters in the whole series who kind of disappears and you don't really hear from for a long, long time at all.
Since the first book, yeah.
Exactly, Game of Thrones. He is mentioned in it. He goes to Winterfell and then goes with Jon Snow to the Wall, I believe. Or no, he goes ahead of Jon Snow, I think.
I think he goes with him, yeah.
Does he go with Jon Snow? Okay.
Yeah.
He gets to the wall either way, and then he has to go on a mission to figure out what has happened to one of the men of the Night's Watch who's recently disappeared and hasn't been heard from. So of course he leads a whole group of men, the Night's Watch, north of the wall, and then disappears, and we haven't heard from him in a while.
And they find his men.
Do they find his men?
Yeah, his men come back as whites.
Right, but not him. That's true, you're right.
Yeah.
Bad memory on my part. So basically, there's a lot of questions we're left with in terms of Benjen Stark. Where is he gone? Is he a white? Is he dead? Is he still alive? Is he going to make a comeback appearance? Who knows? So if you don't mind, if I just throw my little thoughts out there about him, I have a few, but well, I guess I guess the first thing I can say in terms of Benjen and any theories that have already existed out there is there's one that says, I believe, that Benjen is rumored to be Cold Hands, who is, of course, that white who guides Bran and Hodor and that kind of his friends to the cave of the last of the Greenseers.
Yeah.
However, there are a few issues with that, if I recall. There is one being the fact that I think Leaf, one of the children of the forest, tells Bran that what's his name? That the Cold Hands has been dead for quite a while.
Yeah.
And considering Benjen's only gone missing for maybe like a year or two, and considering that the children of the forest lived for such a long time, it would seem a little strange that, he would describe, if it is Benjen, then he would describe Cold Hands as being dead for a long time.
Yeah, and a long time would be a long time for them, right?
Exactly, right? So I have some doubts as to that being, this character, this figure of Cold Hands being Benjen. And also I feel that Bran might have recognized him as well, considering they did see each other at Winterfell when...
I don't know, Bran is very young.
He is very young. But I mean, even from growing up, you would think that maybe Benjen would come by sometimes, and also during when the King Robert Baratheon came to Winterfell to meet with Ned Stark to ask him to be Hand of the King, you'd think maybe Bran would recognize him, unless of course Cold Hands is disfigured beyond belief. But I don't think that was the case at all.
He does have a mask, or not a mask, but some sort of scarf or something around his face.
True.
That muffles his voice. So I assume he's difficult to identify if he was at one point a human.
That's true, I guess. I did not think about that either. So do you think that this Cold Hands figure might be Benjen Stark, or do you think that's unlikely?
I mean, he might be. He could be the white. But if he is, then, as all other whites are seemingly mindless, except for their targets, it's weird to think that, supposedly, either Leaf, another child of the forest, or the three-eyed crow would be controlling this white in some way. Kind of like how you can warg into other things. And if he is, I'm not even sure if he's being warged, because he seems to be talking on his own volition.
It's true, he almost seems to have as free will as like a weird undead creature.
And if he, why not reveal him unless he was going to be important to the story?
True, that is true.
And it feels like keeping it a mystery is fine and great, but the payoff doesn't seem that incredible, because if it's Benjen, then great, it's Benjen. It's not like it's that great of a payoff at the end of this.
That's a good point.
And it's true that George R. R. Martin's stories, his mysteries don't necessarily always have payoff right away.
True. That is very true as well.
So
As we've come to find out.
yeah.
Well, let me ask you this then: if Benjen is not cold hands, as some people think he is,
Yeah.
then do you think it's possible that he is a White Walker, or White, I guess, as they're called in the books, or do you think he's maybe something worse? Like maybe he's somehow been turned into one of the White Walker. No, White Walker. Yeah, maybe he's been turned into White Walker. I don't know.
Others,
I know in the show we've seen male babies being
yeah.
turned into White Walkers.
Yeah.
Could they have an adult turn into White Walker maybe? Or could he be something worse? I mean, I have another slight potential theory as relates to Benjen, if I can just throw it out there.
Go for it. Yeah.
I know that in like the original story of the Night's King, and I don't have a lot of thoughts when it comes to Night's King, but I do remember that there was a discussion of the Night's King who, rose up with the men of the Night's Watch to like attack the South or whatever it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was a story that he might have been a Stark, in fact. There was they listed a bunch of names, and one of the possible candidates of his origins was a Stark from Winterfell.
Yeah.
And of course, Benjen is also Stark from Winterfell. And maybe this is stretching it a little bit, but wouldn't it be interesting, possibly, if Benjen was this Night's King character come again? Maybe, I don't know, or maybe the Night's King possessed Benjen Stark, almost in a way possessing his potential descendant or family's descendant. I don't know.
Well, I wonder if
because we have, like you mentioned, all the men who went with Benjen north of the Wall have all kind of come back as whites except for Benjen. And possibly there could be others as well.
Yeah.
But it would be interesting, maybe if Benjen, reveals himself as a Night's King or as some kind of White Walker and kills or transforms all his fellow soldiers or his fellow men of the Night's Watch.
I wonder because,
and I know I'm reaching there a little bit, but it'd be interesting if they kind of went in that direction.
No, I mean it's something that's unexpected, but if it's built up properly, then you can kind of accept it at the end.
That's true.
Do you think
it could go to left field if it was him?
Yeah, I mean if it's him out of nowhere. But if it's built up to something, we are going north of the Wall even more during the next book.
Exactly.
And who else is there up there?
Except
unless somebody new. I'm wondering how well that story would go down because of the show's canon. And I know the show canon is not the book canon.
Exactly.
And supposedly we've seen the Night's King, if that is him.
Which is what they're seemingly leading us to believe, but there's a lot of debate. They could have done it on purpose to mislead us.
Yeah, exactly. So, that didn't look like Benjen. I don't think you can turn an adult into a white, at least not from the theory that I can figure out. Sorry, not a white, another.
A White Walker, you mean?
Yeah, White Walker, exactly.
The baby White Walkers, yeah.
Yeah.
As far as they seem to be created, anyway.
Yeah, we don't know. Maybe it takes like a whole lifetime for them to turn from child White Walker into a White Walker adult. But anyway, I mean, the one quote that always stuck with me is that, I forgot who says it, it might have been J.R. Mormont, the Lord Commander, at the beginning of the book. And he said that there's not a man in the world who knows the haunted forest as well as Benjen Stark. So he's clearly well-versed in ranging up north. If he's alive, he could be with the wildlings or he could be hiding out somewhere. Either of those things, I don't think are that likely.
Yeah.
Because the wildlings came in hordes to attack the wall at one point. And if he's dead, he could just be frozen or dead.
That's true.
And that
you might never see him again.
Basically doesn't need a build-up at all. It just already happened. But if the author, George R. R. Martin, is keeping it a mystery and then we find out he's dead, that's worse than finding out he's cold hands, because that's not even any of a payoff at all.
True.
If he was cold hands, then that's something.
It's something, but it's like better than nothing, I guess.
Yeah,
in that sense.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you kind of answered my next question, because I was going to say, did he betray? Like I kind of alluded to this already by discussing him as the Night's King potentially.
Yeah.
Throwing that out there. But I mean, there's the main question, the bigger question. Did he betray the Men of the Night's Watch? Is he a turncoat in general? Did he join the Wildlings, as you say? It would be interesting, maybe, and maybe I'm kind of jumping into the next discussion here with Rickon, but it would be interesting if he somehow ended up at Skagos and he finds his nephew there. I
didn't even think about that.
Kind of far-reaching there a little bit, but what if he ends up there out of all places in the north? It seems to be one of the few places north of the Wall, somewhat, that's still seemingly okay to be. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know if there's actual cannibals there and how they deal with their business. But
exactly.
If he ended up in Skagos, it would have to be a book before Rickon made it there.
You mean he would have to make it there before Rickon? Or?
Yeah, I mean, how would he know Rickon to even go there?
Oh, that's true. Maybe, I'm talking coincidentally, like if they both ended up there at the same
there.
time or same rough period of time. Or maybe, because if Rickon shows up there, well, I guess we can also say that for Rickon, but I'm just saying, let's say you have this, I'll stick to Benjen. If you have this man of the Night's Watch who just kind of shows up at Skagos, how would they treat him?
I don't know.
I
I don't
feel like
know any rangers who made it there to Skagos.
And assuming they're cannibals, I mean, they'd probably kill them off. Unless, they are in a desperate situation themselves, and even then, I don't know.
That's why they're cannibals, because they're desperate.
There you go. So, I don't have really much anything else to say about Benjen Stark himself. I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
No, I mean, it kind of pays into Rickon, so we can move on.
Exactly, I think that's what I do. We can move into Rickon now.
Sure, yeah.
Now, as far as we've last been made aware in the books, is that Rickon is at Skagos, and we find this out, of course, when Wex Pike, right, the squire for he was a squire for Theon, right? Yeah. He lost his ability to speak or hear or anything like that. Or
he's mute or something.
He's mute. Yeah, I think is he just mute?
Or he might not even have a tongue. I forgot. He might have been cut off.
Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
I don't remember. See, I have to read these damn books.
There's a lot.
There's so much, and I've been slacking on that. So either way, Wex Pike basically reveals to the Manderleys at White Harbor that Rickon is still alive. He doesn't seem to make mention of Bran, though, as far as I'm aware, but he does make it clear that Rickon is still alive, and he basically informs the Manderleys that Rickon and a wildling woman, who is, of course, Osha, have traveled to Skagos. And, of course, the Manderleys, or Women Manderley, the Lord of the White Harbor, his name is Wyman Manderley, yeah. He basically tells Sir Davos that if you go and retrieve Bran and bring him back to us, we'll throw our support in with Stannis, because then we'll have the Stark to
unite the North.
Unite the North. And of course, his as a male in this universe and in the North, his claim would be ahead of Arya or Sansa, or especially in this case, I guess Arya, who is being at least a fake Arya anyway, as far as we know, is being used by the Boltons as the Stark of Winterfell for their claim in uniting the North. Yeah. So Rickon, So as far as we're aware, Rickon's at Skagos. Now, do you think this is true? Do you think he actually made it to Skagos?
That's a good point. I was thinking about the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, Wex Pike, he was in the trees when he watched Bran, Rickon, the wolves, Asha, Hodor, and the reeds.
That's right.
All of them, yeah.
They all
walk out of Winterfell. How would he know he went to Skagos? He's not very far from Winterfell, unless they were speaking about it directly there. Or unless, I mean, Asha did kill, Maester Luwin. Unless Maester Luwin told her to go there, because nobody would find her there. Which is a possibility that I just thought of, and that kind of makes some sense.
It also is interesting, though, that if she does opt to go to Skagos, it's an interesting choice on her behalf, because when she first appears in Game of Thrones, the first book, she makes it so abundantly clear that she does not want to go back to the North.
I wonder if that's only in the books or not. Only in the books or in the show. Because in the show, she makes it.
In the show, she does not want to go back north, but I feel like in the books it was the same thing, wasn't it?
I think she was coming south because she didn't want to join Mance Rayder's army and she didn't want to fight, and she thought there was. Oh, I thought because
there was a bunch of wildlings going south, and I thought it was all because they did not want to. They want to escape from the White Walkers, basically.
That may have been it too, yeah. But I don't know if that's. It may be.
I thought that's from the books. Maybe I'm wrong there. I'm really sure.
But I don't remember how much of her motivations given to Rob.
Well, if you just go by even if for whatever reason she comes south, if you just go by that assumption that she's escaping the North, it's strange that she would want to go back to the North in the first place. I mean, granted, Skagos isn't on the mainland north of the Wall, but it is still the North, and it's still a fairly rough place, unless of course she is from Skagos, which would be interesting. If she's
That's a good point. Yeah, and she may be the person who's north of the Wall that we're taking the viewpoint of in the next book.
That's
Skagos is technically north of the Wall, I think.
It is, right? Like it's walled territory as far as we're aware.
Yeah. And I was thinking about Wex.
Okay.
Do you think he'd be fooling Davos or Wyman Manderley, and why would he be?
He doesn't really have anything to gain at this point. He's kind of,
he's their prisoner now.
Exactly. He's like a more or less useless character. Sending Davos north of the Wall to face a certain death wouldn't exactly help him in any way.
No, exactly.
So I'm fairly confident in saying that Wex Pike isn't trying to deceive Sir Davos or the Manderleys. I do wonder, though, what I'm really curious about is because I'm going by the assumption, of course, that Rickon does make it to Skagos with Osha.
Yeah.
I wonder how they were so easily integrated into the Skagosi society. And of course, we know Rickon has the direwolf, and I wonder maybe if that didn't have something to do with it, perhaps.
Maybe he's a god there.
Maybe, exactly. These are wild old people, and Rickon's a very wild child, as we've come to find out from the books.
And Shaggy Dog's quite a bit of a wild wolf, too.
Exactly. He's like the most wild and untamable of all the direwolves of the story, anyway. Yeah. So it could very well be that he's kind of become like a figure to these Skagosi.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, I intended to bring this up in a later video I was making actually on the fate of House Stark, but what was I going to say? But if Sir Davos does make it to if Sir Davos does make it to Skagos, then what incentive does Bran have to leave Skagos? You know, he's basically just a little kid who arrived there.
Bran?
Not Bran, Rickon. Sorry, Rickon was like 4 or 5, 3, 4 or 5, I think, when he made it to Skagos. He's pretty young. He's a little kid. For all we know, maybe he forgot about his previous family, or he's not as attached to the family he once had. He's kind of forged a new family with Osha and maybe the Skagosian kind of become a part of their culture.
I mean, let's look at the math for this. He's 4 years old when the story starts.
I think he's 3 when the story starts.
He's 3.
He's really young, and I think around 4 years old is when, or 4 or 5. I think he's 4 when Winterfell gets burned down. They leave.
So I mean, maybe a year in Skagos at this point.
At least a year.
At least,
maybe a year, 2 years. It's very easy for young kids to I guess adapt to new environments and stuff like that. I'm assuming.
No, I mean, if he's only 3, then I don't see why we wouldn't.
Exactly. So I mean, who's to say? He's back in Skagos now, and he has this new.
Asha's basically his mother now,
yeah. Yeah, she's like his pseudo mother now, I guess, basically. So
yeah,
it would be interesting, what incentive, and if this random guy Davos comes to Skagos, what incentive does Bran have to leave and go back south? Rickon.
No, you're right.
What incentive does Rickon have to go back south to like some lord's house or some lord's castle in some place he's never even been to?
Unless he pleads that you have to come home. But home is Winterfell, and Winterfell is not going to be the goal at this point. Yeah,
unless, of course, he promises to bring him back with his brother Jon Snow. But then again, we don't even know how close Rickon and Jon Snow were in the first place. So
that's true. We don't. Yeah.
There's no real indication if Rickon has any attachments to Jon Snow. So it's something we'll have to see, I guess. Rickon and Rickon was attached to Robb for a while when Catelyn was mourning.
Yeah, and he was actually attached to the 2 Freys too. The ones who fought with stakes.
That's right.
Frey squires. One of whom is dead now, I think.
Yeah.
Big Walder or Little Walder, one of them's dead. I forgot which one's which.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, Rickon. Big question mark there. Don't know if he's going to come back from Skagos, if he's in Skagos.
Yeah. Let's. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So let's say Rickon comes back with Davos, and now he's the Northman everybody's supposed to rally around.
Yeah.
This feeds into Jane Westerling too. If she has a kid, if she has a son, who are they going to support? Would the Northmen support Robb's son, or would they support Rickon, who's actually technically not even king? He's the brother of the king of the North. Right.
That's a very good question too, actually, and that's one of the big problems that comes in now with the story because, and it's also again something I'm going to mention in my next video, but it's it's the idea that so many of these Starks are scattered everywhere. So few of them, basically nobody really knows. There's no real proof to verify that these are true Starks because they've been scattered, except for the direwolf. I mean, I think with Rickon, they have to bring back the direwolf.
Yeah, that's the only one who has proof.
That's the only evidence of him being a Stark. But the others, I mean, there's Sansa, who is the only Stark that's kind of well known enough to be acclaimed as a Stark because she was in King's Landing for a long while. She was old enough in the North.
Yep.
She's in the Vale of Arryn. There's like a public knowledge that she's still alive, I guess, even if she's disappeared to the eyes of most of the world.
Yeah.
She is still, a figure that could easily be recognized, I guess, compared to the other Starks.
Yeah, I think so.
And that's and just to go into Jane Westerling now, that's the issue with her child, who of course doesn't even exist in the TV show. Both her and the child, except the child gets killed off right when it's in the bloom, and it was with Talisa Major or whatever. But yeah, no. So with Jane Westerling, I mean, assuming she has a child and it doesn't get aborted or whatever that procedure they did with her, they fed her some kind of milk of the poppy, I think, or some kind of
moon tea or something.
Some kind of liquid to basically flush the child out. Assuming the child was even born in the first place, there is very little. Not so there's no proof that they can't say this is Robb Stark's child because I guess they could, of course.
Well, I wonder if they could at all because I don't want George R. R. Martin to have another baby switching.
Exactly, because I mean, there's whole babies. Yeah, exactly where you're going. I was going to get to next. The whole baby switching fiasco. This could be like a fake child or whatever, and that kind of feeds into something else about Jane Westerling because if we can just discuss her now.
Yeah, let's go there.
I think it's a good turning point to go to her. There's a lot of discrepancies with her description, if I recall, in the books.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
A Storm of Swords, I believe. We have Catelyn start describing her as. I think she described her as being beautiful. I think she had wide hips. What else was there? I wrote it down here. Pretty and slender with good hips. And then in A Feast for Crows, when Jaime Lannister sees her for the first time, he describes her as pretty but not a girl to lose a kingdom for.
Yeah.
And she has narrow hips, which is a very interesting discrepancy between the two characters. So
yeah, it's different.
Unless, of course, George R. R. Martin made a mistake there. It's really strange that they would have this character kind of have a shifting appearance. So I kind of wonder if the original Jane didn't get killed off, kind of like how Talisa Mayer got killed off in the TV show.
I wonder if she got killed off or if she escaped.
Or something like that, or maybe she escaped and they're trying to like pretend this is, this other female is not Talisa, is Jane Westerling. In order to pretend that, they still have her and they aborted the baby, even though the actual Jane Westerling is either dead, like I said, or maybe she is still alive and well and has had her child, and maybe that child can be used to push forward a claim for the North. But again,
I wonder.
These characters who disappear for so long and then reappear and then they have this child, it's kind of hard to build, I guess, in my mind anyway, to build support around these characters because there's so much mystery surrounding them. There's so much,
Yeah, it really has to be. You need somebody who has a deft hand in writing this. And George R. R. Martin is clearly capable, but we need to know where they were.
Exactly.
And something I just mentioned to you was that at Comic-Con, at the panel for Game of Thrones.
This is in the States, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
George R. R. Martin was asked a question. I forgot what it was exactly. But, this entire panel is on the Game of Thrones channel if you want to watch it. But he was asked a question, and I think it was about Jane Westerling and the difference between her and Talisa. Anyways, so he did say that you will see Jane Westerling again in the prologue for Winds of Winter. So we are going to see her again. I expect the prologue chapter to be very shocking, because I think that's what most prologues are. Shocking to the point where it's a cliffhanger. And you have to wait for, the epilogue or something else in the story to catch up. But we may find out that Jane Westerling was never aborted, or her child was never aborted. We may find out that her mother, who we do know is her actual mother in the books when Jamie sees her, because you can't really hide her. But she may still be on the side of the North.
They even have that description of her even though the physical description of Jane is different when Jamie encounters her, he even describes her as having her dress all torn up as an act of, of sorrow for Rob or of like solidarity with him or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
So this could be a plan concocted by the mother just to keep her actual daughter hidden. Right.
Or somebody else could have captured it too, potentially. I'm far-reaching here, but wouldn't it be interesting if, let's say, Varys or another key player in Game of Thrones has captured Jane Westerling and has her daughter, so they can use this daughter as their own faction's heir to the North? There's so many of these occurrences seemingly happening right now. We have Sansa in the Vale. We have potentially Rickon and the Manderleys.
Yep.
And by deference, by default, Stannis, of course. And then we have the Boltons. So there's all these different Starks or false Starks, as we know in some cases, being used to push this claim to the North.
See, I wonder. You were saying, what if somebody else found her? What if the Blackfish found her?
That'd be interesting, because the Blackfish is another character who's disappeared for a while.
Yeah, we're going to talk about him soon too.
Yeah.
And I think that's it for me for Jane.
I have nothing else for Jane, I don't think. The big question was, is her child dead or is he alive? And is she dead or is she alive? These are things it'd be good to know. And I wonder, actually, now that you mentioned that prologue chapter, I wonder if maybe this prologue chapter won't be, something with her being put in a position of power and only to have her killed off at the end of the chapter.
Yeah, I wonder,
Since her TV show counterpart or replacement character is killed off at the Red Wedding.
Well, I don't think he would change his story for the TV show.
That's true. Unless he had always planned to kill off Jane at some point, and then the TV show kind of just ended her story earlier, or Talisa's story earlier. Just to make
I think they did it as a shock factor without really thinking about it.
That's possible, or maybe to shock the book readers who are kind of wondering, why is she going with them? Why is she at the Red Wedding? Why should they be being stabbed? And it kind of makes us think a lot more about these characters, because the TV show equivalent is dead, and
who knows how that's going to be
brought
back in the TV show. If the story is something that's very important with Jane, then how's that even going to come into play in the show?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But anyway, that's for them to do. Yeah.
So I think with that said, we should move our discussion to the Blackfish.
Sure. Yeah.
Now, if I recall, I did not take many notes on the Blackfish, unfortunately, as many as you did. But from what I recall with the Blackfish, and we were kind of discussing this earlier, is that after the siege of Riverrun, he manages to escape by the canals, I think.
Yeah, he swims.
Riverrun, and he swims out somewhere. I don't know where he goes.
No, exactly. We don't know. Yeah.
So we don't know. So it's not even revealed that much. So we know he's out there somewhere, possibly alive. Assuming he's still alive. Yeah. Assuming he's gonna do something. As far as we know, he doesn't seem to be in the Vale of Arryn. At least he hasn't been revealed to the Lord. Like when in Sansa's chapter with Peter Baelish and the Lords of the Vale, he's not mentioned. But it would be interesting if he does end up there. Maybe he like forms his own faction within the Vale and tries to rescue Sansa from Littlefinger. I don't know.
Yeah, I want him to be a point of view chapter because I really like him.
He's a very interesting character. He's one of the most interesting characters we have not actually got a POV from yet.
And we don't see POVs from a lot of older characters other than Barristan.
That's very true.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, characters like Ned Stark, they're older, but they're not like,
They're not in their late years,
they're not like,
right?
they're in their 60s, 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
So that's very true.
So I was actually looking at a map of the river run and seeing the rivers that branch from it.
Okay.
So anyway, he can go west to the Crag.
Okay.
To the Westerlands. He can go south, which is the Red Fork, which basically leads nowhere, more into the Westerlands. And then he can go east to the Inn of the Kneeling Man. So the Kneeling Man Inn is where Hot Pie is right now. It's one of these stops for the Brotherhood. And he could meet up with the Brotherhood, to be honest, because they're in the river run. Oh, what if he meets up with Stoneheart?
That's true. Well, actually, now you actually got me thinking on a whole other area, because now we have in the books we have Jaime and Brienne going to see Lady Stoneheart.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be interesting if they go to see Stoneheart and Blackfish is there?
Yeah.
If he almost has Jaime's back, as Jaime does in the act of negotiating with the Blackfish, he does.
Yeah.
I guess show some form of like
some
mercy,
honor.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting if in that context, the Blackfish doesn't try to convince Lady Stoneheart to change her mind and killing him potentially. I don't know. That's just
Jaime can't die. Jaime can't die.
I don't think he can die just yet. No, I don't think so.
Oh, that's amazing. I didn't think about that either. If he meets up with Stoneheart and stops Jaime's death, but would he stop Brienne's death?
Or could he be the one to kill Stoneheart because seeing that his sister's kind of deformed and messed up?
Exactly.
Or his niece, sorry.
His niece, yeah.
And seeing her in this, corrupted state, maybe he would, be the one to kind of put her out of her misery, so to speak, and save Jaime in the process. I don't know. It'd be interesting.
I like this idea more than any other idea.
Yeah.
That he meets up, rather than being disappeared forever, which wouldn't happen, I don't think, with Blackfish.
I don't think so. It's too important.
Or to go somewhere that he's not wanted. He's too smart to go somewhere where he's not wanted. And
Exactly.
he could just meet up with the Brotherhood by accident.
That's true.
They are around there all the time.
Yeah, and it would be like a natural ally for him to go, or a natural ally for him to meet up with.
There's nobody else.
Exactly, unless, like I said, the Vale of Arryn maybe, or he could also go to some other neutral location like Dorne, or even, although that'd be a little bit hard, or even Old Town, for example.
Do you think?
Old Town? Yeah, there were the Maesters.
Yeah.
Old Town,
Do you think that? Actually, I don't know if it's even mentioned in the book, but do we know if everyone knows if Lysa's dead? Other than the Vale Lords.
Yeah. Because
Like
I think
the
by that point, I'm not positive. I'm pretty sure by that point, what's her face, Cersei is locked in the tower. So I think people it might be known, but I feel like given the situation in the world, I think most people are too caught up in their own affairs to worry about Lysa Tully.
That's fair. I don't see how Blackfish will get that.
I don't.
Anyways.
Yeah. That's yeah. So I see what you're saying. You're saying like maybe if he's going to see Lysa Tully,
And
if
he
you think
already
she's
knew.
still alive, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I feel like I should have looked that up before we enter this discussion. Now that
No,
we're bringing it up,
it's something to think about.
Yeah.
He could be. I mean, if he swims east to the Vale, he would end up at the Salt Pans.
that's right. Yeah,
And who do we know there but the Hound?
that's
At least
true, yeah.
Sandor Clegane, not really the Hound anymore. But
Well,
talk
he's
about
called the Gravedigger. We don't even know if he is Sandor Clegane.
that's fair. Yeah, that's
There
fair.
are a lot of hints that it's Sandor Clegane, and we can actually start talking about him now if you like.
Yeah, let's do it.
So let's talk about Sandor Clegane, the Hound,
Yeah.
who was last seen. In the TV show, he's last seen fighting with Brienne, but in the books, of course, it's after he fights Biter and that other Rorge, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's dying, and then he asks Arya to kill him, and then she kind of basically lets him die on his own and goes off to Bravos, of course.
Yeah.
And he's kind of left there, and that's the last we see of him.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of assume, in a very similar, and I always make this comment, in a very similar way to his brother Gregor, who also kind of gets killed off, quote unquote, gets killed by Oberyn Martell with the poison, and comes back to life as this demonic Frankenstein monster-like creature.
Yeah.
I kind of, and I say this a lot, I kind of see the same thing happening with the Hound or Sandor, coming back as a good character, as a force for good.
Somebody absolved, right?
Yeah, absolved of the sins, and that's seemingly what the Gravedigger is all about, of course.
It seems like it, yeah.
And like when Brienne encounters him, it's very interesting that Brienne encounters Sandor Clegane, if it's Sandor Clegane, as the Gravedigger, because in the show, of course, she and him fight and
Quite viciously.
basically almost kill each other, yeah. But in the books, of course, she encounters this Gravedigger who's taller than her. His face is also partially hidden.
Yeah.
There's all these cues that would lead us to think that this figure is Sandor Clegane, but absolving himself. And there's also, I think, there's talk on, I don't know if it's been on some forums or where I've read this before. There was talk, of course, that the people he's basically bearing a body for each person he's killed or something in a way to absolve himself of his sins. So this gravedigger, can we agree that he is Sandor Clegane, or do you?
Let's say that for the discussion that we'll have.
Okay.
If he is, then I think his story is done.
If he is the gravedigger, really?
I think his story is. I think there's a piece to the end of his story that no other character gets unless they already die. And I think that him absolving his sins and living a life of peace is something that he always wanted. And I know that a lot of people want him to, find Sansa again, right? Or to kill his brother or his newly reformed brother,
right? And
I think that would be poetic, but I don't think every encounter needs to happen like that.
That's very funny because you're the second person I know who mentioned that actually to me. Another person who read the books, a friend of my friend's boyfriend. He made the same comment. He said to me the same comment that I think Sandor Clegane's story's ended now. He's kind of been absolved of his sins. He's a gravedigger. Well, let's leave him, do his thing there.
For a person who's been through so much violence from his childhood, it feels nice. George R. R. Martin doesn't want us to feel nice, of course, but it feels nice that he would find peace at the end of his life.
What if? Well, two questions here.
Go.
One, I do feel that, at least in the TV show, I think that it'll be very difficult for Sandor to be completely cut off, even in terms of the story. I think he'd have to have an epic ending because that's the nature of TV shows in general.
He just had an epic ending. I mean, he could.
He did. So you think they might have just killed him off just now? Then maybe
in the show, yes.
See, I still think that's too cliffhanger in the show.
Really?
Yeah, kind of. He's kind of just left there.
Cliff.
I know, but he's kind of left there and he's lying there. He's not he didn't have an Oberyn Martell style death from Ned Stark. He's not disfigured and
we didn't see him explode.
Exactly. His body's still there and he still looks like he's somewhat alive. He could very well be rescued. I don't know. I still feel, given how much he's been played up in the show, and I made this comment with Shay, of course, before, even though that turned out wrong. I still feel like he's been played up so much. There's no way they can just kind of end his story there.
Actually, he does mention something that's kind of in the show specifically. He says, unless there's a Maester hidden behind that rock, which somebody behind the rock does find him in the books.
In the books, yeah. Unless they're making fun of us book readers by saying, he's dead,
Yeah, it could very well be it.
Like you're saying, so.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm okay with him ending his story there because I think that there's a lot of people that we need to get to. But what about you?
I was going to make that kind of comment that, of course, if he in the show, I feel like they should keep him alive longer. But I was going to say in the books, if he does live out his life of peace, it would be interesting if Arya, as one of the faceless men, has to kill him as one of her tasks. It would just be an interesting end to his life, and maybe that would. I keep reaching out to these random ideas, but maybe it would be funny if she has to kill him and then she starts. After maybe she forgets her true self, she starts remembering herself when she sees him and, gives him a merciful death. Or maybe chooses not to kill him. I don't know. Very random thoughts. But it'd be interesting if they went that direction, I think.
Yeah. I mean, there's not a lot of people who could bring Arya back. But she's been with the Hound the longest, other than her family, who's all dead.
Of course. And, Sansa, I guess, is still alive, so.
Sansa, yeah.
And Catelyn, Undead Star. Lady Stoneheart, whatever you want to call her.
Yeah.
Okay, well, since we're kind of edging on Arya territory here, and we talk about the Hound, should we talk about those two Braavosi characters who we've, grown to, I think, love or really enjoy and have so much mystery around them, but just disappear like that. And of course, I'm talking about Syrio Forel and Jaqen H'ghar.
Yep.
Just quick comments I have to say about these two characters. I don't have anything written about them, unfortunately, but Syrio Forel, of course, disappears in book 1. And I think Jaqen H'ghar, is he book 2 or book 3?
Book 2.
Book 2, yeah. Clash of Kings that he.
And Syrio supposedly is dead because he fought. What's his face? He fought one of the Kingsguard. I forgot his name.
I don't remember his name either, but remember the TV
Meryn
show
Trent.
Meryn Trent. Remember when the Hound was talking about how when the Hound makes fun of Arya, he says, "Oh, you got killed by Meryn Trent.
Yeah.
He's the greatest swordsman of all. Really? Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
Kind of mocking it. So I mean, that to me is kind of a hint that he's probably still alive, even though he's assumed dead.
He doesn't want to run.
That's true.
The first sword of the Braavos never runs, and Meryn Trent is still alive after that point. So unless he was pushed out of a window and fell below and then escaped.
Because I was going to say, what did we say to the gods of death? Not today.
Not today.
So I don't think he's ready to die just that day.
Or unless he agreed on something with Meryn Trent.
Maybe.
They'll give me gold if I can leave.
Yeah, it'd be like defeats Meryn Trent and say, "Hey, I'll keep you alive for this time and let you escape," or some
next time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, there's another funny thing though, because a lot of people have speculated that, given these two characters are from Bravos and they seem to be very powerful characters. I think Cyril Farrell is like he's the first swordsman of Bravos.
He was, yeah.
These two characters, people are saying that they might be the same person. In fact,
yeah. Who
possibly.
knows if he switched his face, he was caught, or he found his way into the prison, and then when he was taken north, he was with Arya again, anyways, because that was his plan.
Exactly. Maybe his whole plan was to get Arya to Bravos in the first place, and this was all part of his mechanizing to get to know her and all this
stuff. 3
stuff.
books away, but yeah, fair. It's
Mind
smart
explosion.
enough. Yeah.
Hey, it could happen. I mean, I don't know, but it just seems very interesting how two Braavosi figures kind of came into Arya's life.
Yeah.
And of course, she ends up in Bravos. So maybe it's coincidental. Maybe this is all part of her journey, which led her to want to go to Bravos in the first place. Or maybe it was intended. Maybe they intended to have her encounter these characters and go to Bravos eventually to work as to fight as a faceless man. So, let's just talk about their own fates. I mean, do you think they're still alive? Do you think they're dead?
So I don't think Jaqen is dead because I think he has his own plan, and we can talk about him in a second. But for Cyril Farrell, I don't want him to be dead.
Yeah, neither do I.
But I think he is.
You think he is? Okay.
I honestly can't think of a way he could have escaped that situation and still been the honorable first sword of Bravos.
Okay, well, that's a good point. Well, if we go by your assumption that he is dead and he is the first sword of Bravos, do you think his death could... I mean, Bravos already has a lot of incentive to get involved in the war in Westeros, of course. Of course, the Iron Throne is indebted to Bravos now.
Yeah.
Do you think this death could, and if the knowledge of this death could add fuel to the fire and make Bravos overtly join...
I think Syrio used to be the first sword. He's not anymore.
He wasn't anymore, okay.
Because he would be by the Sea Lord's side then, right?
True. Well, the idea, I guess, is that he's an important figure.
Oh, I see. Yeah, he may have been.
Well, even that thought that you're saying right now, like the idea that he was the first Lord of Bravos to the first swordsman of Bravos, and like would stay by the Sea Lord's side if that is indeed his role, to stay by the Sea Lord's side.
Yeah.
Perhaps it is just Jaqen camouflaging himself as a previous first Lord of Bravos. Maybe I don't know. I'm or maybe he's just trying to be a general first Lord of Bravos. I don't know.
A really good point.
Because I mean, wouldn't have, well, like, I guess my point is, could first swordsman of Bravos just retire? Do they have to like die, or there's all these questions that we don't even know.
We don't know how old he was, really.
Neither that too.
He's apparently like to me in the book he's described as bald with a hook nose, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So I just see him as Ben Kingsley. That's literally what
I could see that. Yeah, I could see that. I like that description actually. Too bad Ben Kingsley couldn't play him. Although Miltos Hierro,
oh, he was incredible.
He's great too. Though. Yeah. I love him in that role. Very different take on it, but still very cool character.
I was going to say something else.
Actor as the character.
Yeah, but anyway, we can go on to Jaqen.
Yeah, let's discuss Jaqen specifically. So,
I mean, if he's not Cyril Farrell.
Exactly. If he's not Cyril Farrell, yeah, exactly. Do you think we've actually seen his true face then? Because he keeps changing his image.
I wonder if faceless men even have true faces anymore at one point.
Good point. Well,
if they do, then why would they show it? Well, when would they show it?
Yeah, what would be the motivation to show their true faces? I mean, I wonder if Arya even hasn't encountered him yet. Maybe for all we know, that old man training him is Jaqen Agar, the kindly man, yeah. I don't know.
Do you remember the prologue and the epilogue? Oh no, there's no epilogue. But the prologue and the last chapter for Feast for Crows. We're in Old Town, and we see the story with Pate, the pig boy.
Yes.
He wants to be an alchemist. He wants to take a girl he likes somewhere, and he wants gold.
Right. Then he gets killed.
He gets killed by the alchemist, I think, or this person he thinks is the alchemist. And when he sees his face, he has a hook nose, a scar. And it's a suggestion that this is the same person that Jaqen turned into after he finished with Arya.
Oh.
Because at that point he had close cropped hair, hook nose, and a scar, just like the person that Pate sees. And so Pate is killed by this guy, and then at the end of the book, Samwell is there looking for the Meister, some Meister, I forgot who, and he meets Pate, the pig boy. And
right, yeah.
Like, why would he still be alive if he died at the beginning? But it would have been this person who could have taken his face and would have been a faceless man, supposedly Jaqen.
And masked himself as the pig boy.
Yeah, and the point was, I think, to get a key to a locked box underneath Meister Orwyle or Cargyle or somebody's bed. Right. And that was what he was trading with the alchemist and Pate. They were trading the gold for the key. And who knows what's in that box? I mean, maybe that was Jaqen's entire purpose for being in Westeros. He got sidetracked with Arya, or maybe Arya was part of it. But
that's true. What is his end plan, or what is the purpose of him, or is he just an assassin who somebody's paid, who was paid him to, or somebody's paid him to do these?
I know. I mean, who's
behind him? Really?
Yeah, I mean, it could have been Alaras the Sphinx.
Right, who's I think, and who's in truth, of course, one of the Dornish.
Cirilla, right?
Cirilla, that's right.
But what could be so important that's in that box? A dragon egg? No, probably not.
I don't know. That's a good question. I'm honestly, the issue with Old Town is that's one location in Westeros that I've never really given much thought to. Remember, there's one point I was thinking about Old Town. I completely forgot about the fact that there was that famous maester's name, that guy who's traveling east now. What's his name? See, I can't even remember his name.
Is it the Q guy, Cargyle?
No. He's like the head, not the head of the
Marwyn.
Marwyn. See, I wish I could give more feedback to you on that. And those are very interesting thoughts. And I remember all these characters, of course.
Yeah.
It's just not something I've actually really considered in any great depth. And that's actually
those
really good questions too.
I think that it's important to read that story, the non-fiction book that's coming out about Westeros.
Yes, the
World of Ice and Fire.
Ice and Fire, yeah.
It's coming out this month.
20th of October.
Yeah,
Tuesday.
it's exciting.
We should go get it, actually.
We should.
I'm down.
Yeah, and then
Dothraki book comes out next Tuesday as well, by the way.
In
2 days. Yeah, there's a Dothraki language book that's coming out in 2 days.
That's crazy.
Isn't it going to be awesome? I want to learn Dothraki now, just so I can have private conversations with my friends. People will be like, what language is that? It's Dothraki. So cool. Anyway, great points on Jaqen H'ghar. I don't really honestly have any other thoughts on him.
No, me neither. I mean, it's more of a mystery than other characters, I think.
Precisely. So, which characters do we have left? We have Aeron and we have, I guess, Varys, technically.
Yeah, we can talk about Aeron Greyjoy. We can talk about Varys. Varys, we know where he is at the end of the books.
I feel
we
like
don't know where he is
between like his storyline, yeah. And that's a character you brought up today, we should discuss. And he's not somebody I gave much thought to because I kind of just assumed.
No, I mean, he could very well have been still in King's Landing. Or he could have left like he does in the show, but not with Tyrion, because Tyrion would have known that, and we know him, what he's up to afterwards.
Or he goes back and forth traveling between him.
I kind of expect him to go to
Pentos?
Pentos and see his friend. Forgot his name.
Magister Illyrio?
Yeah, Illyrio. Yeah.
Magister Illyrio.
I mean, they could have been conducting more plans there.
That's true. They could be plotting in secrecy. And honestly, like I will say this, when it comes to the Hound, and especially Varys, there's a lot of thoughts and a lot of theories, great theories out there I gotta add. For example, check out Ladonna's theory on Varys, Ladonna and James Johnson. I'll send the link to their channel. And I think even what's his name? Tony Teflon. I think he has a few videos. I haven't seen any of his videos recently, unfortunately.
He comes out with a lot, but they're very descriptive.
And I don't know if he has any on Varys specifically. I think he does. I'm pretty sure he does. So check out those theory videos.
Yeah.
But I've definitely been influenced a lot by Ladonna's thoughts on Varys in terms of his big game plan. I think he's a bit too much of a big character to discuss in the context of just disappeared characters.
No, I think so. That's why he's back.
Exactly. But if you want to talk about like where you think he's been, I guess you can just say that, like you said, he's been to Pentos and back. I guess is the real question here is.
The only problem I have with that theory is that he would have left at the same time as Tyrion, or just before, because he helps him escape.
Right, and he.
Or just after, really. And if he escaped with Tyrion and went to Illyrio, then Tyrion would have seen Varys. Unless Varys was hidden as like a Unsullied the entire time.
Right, or he went back automatically. Because it wasn't a discussion during Cersei's reign that there's this puppet show in town about how there's this evil lion who's like attacking all the other people, attacking all the people, and then like a stag tries to stand up for the people in the stag, and the lion says, I'm the ruler of this land or whatever, and just kills them or eats them. Yeah. And then a dragon egg hatches, and the dragon goes and kills a lion.
Yeah.
And then there's like a story that supposedly Varys is responsible for that puppet show kind of being popular.
I mean, if he stays in King's Landing, nobody's going to find him anyways.
Exactly.
He's a master of that kind of...
He was master of whispers, and of course he has all the orphans in town kind of...
He has orphans, he has all these disguises nobody can find. He changes his smells too, right?
Maybe he's a faceless man. Probably not, but... He's Pentos.
Maybe everyone is.
Maybe everyone's a faceless man. All the characters we know are all faceless men. They're all one person. It's all Jaqen H'ghar.
Story done. Yeah.
Yeah. Hashtag story closed. So yeah. I don't think we have to worry too much about where Varys has been between these times. But I guess personally, I just think he's kind of traveling to and from Pentos. Mostly I think he's in King's Landing.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think he just stayed there.
Trying to kind of usurp Cersei's reign. And of course, he does end up appearing and killing Cersei's uncle.
And
book 5. So.
And my most hated character, Grandmaster Pycelle, which
Ooh,
made me
Maester
really
Pycelle,
happy.
yes. Thank God he died. I was so pissed off when she released him from prison. I was like, why is he
He's
still
terrible.
out
I
there?
hate him. Adulterous, lecherous.
Yeah, he lived way too long in prison.
Oh yeah, yeah.
In terms of Pycelle, though, little quick thought. They present it more, I guess, not overtly, but it's kind of presented in the book better. And in the show, I think they have it in a lot of the deleted scenes. Is where how he kind of presents himself as being really old and crippled and kind of out of it.
Yeah.
But in like the deleted scenes of the TV show, you see him like kind of sitting up straight and speaking more like.
A younger man.
A younger man, yeah. When him and Tywin discuss, which I kind of like that extra.
I like that
to
scene.
him. Yeah, I love that scene when Tywin kind of calls him out, being like, "I know you're I know you're just faking it. You don't have to pretend with me."
The only thing I didn't like about that scene,
What?
and this is way off topic, but I didn't like how Tywin was fishing.
I was actually going to mention that Tywin was fishing that scene. A lot of the other scenes, he's like cutting meat up, or he's doing weird little, not peasant tasks, but tasks that the common folk would be doing.
Although I do think that him cutting up deer is quite a bit
symbolic.
more of a power, symbolic, and it's a bit more of a power play, a power move than fishing.
Okay, yeah.
Which I think was more of a leisure activity for him.
But don't you think the fishing thing would maybe be like a hint of him fishing up the Tullys, or getting rid of the Tullys because of the river run? Their sigil is the fish. I don't know. That's what it seems to me like whenever we have these like animals that he's cutting up. It seems like
that's totally true.
So I don't know. It seems like that's what it is in the show, but I haven't
Yeah, that probably was
more to that.
one of the points of contention for that scene. Whether
Probably.
they should show up for that or not.
I mean, it's not a necessary scene at the end of the day, but it is a cool scene to have amongst many other scenes with.
It is one of the deleted ones that I think are on Game of Thrones channel, or you could
Yeah,
probably
they're on the Game of
search
Thrones channel.
for
They're on the Game of Thrones channel.
deleted scenes.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure on the Game of Thrones channel, but you can search for them on YouTube.
Yeah, there's a couple of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Varys, and then we have Euron Greyjoy. Is he the last figure we must discuss today?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Alrighty, so let's discuss Euron Greyjoy, and he's one character I have not looked into at all. Again, there's so many characters I haven't really done much research on.
There's a lot.
But I think you have quite a bit. Do you want to discuss them?
Okay,
Want to
so
present his stuff.
Sure. So we do know that after the King's Moot, where Euron is, Euron wins the Sea Stone chair. And for the entire time, Euron was saying that no godless man can sit on the Sea Stone chair. We know Euron doesn't really care about the gods. He kind of outwardly just disdains them, even the drowned god, and he just does things his own way. So Euron doesn't accept that. Euron, of course, is his youngest surviving brother, I think. And he used to be like a drunkard, treacherous, but I think he drowned or something. And when
he found the Lord.
He found the Lord, the drowned god.
He became born again.
And in that way, he's
Literally.
become one of the most. He's basically the high priest, I think.
Yes, I think he's the high priest
He's the high
for
priest
the
for
Drowned
the
God.
drowned god. And so, like, for all of his chapters, which I think there are 2 or 3 of in the 4th book in Feast for Crows, all he's doing is listening to the drowned god's pleas by sleeping in salt water and whatnot, and finding out that we should have a King's Moot for the king, and then his plan goes awry because his brother comes back and his brother takes over the King's Moot.
Yeah.
So he goes off and he tries to, at least we think, I'm not sure how well this is mentioned, but he goes off and he tries to drum up support for his own cause, which would be looking for somebody who's a drowned god, somebody who accepts the drowned god and is a good fit for the Sea Stone chair.
Right.
At the beginning, he wanted Balon to continue to be the king of the Iron Islands, but now we know that
Balon's
dead.
And of course, during the King's Moot, we had Victorian, we had Euron, and we of course had Asha, Yara, however you want to call her.
Yeah.
If I recall, with her, she was a woman, so we didn't want her to be the.
I think that was it. Yeah. So at this point, we don't know where he is. He's probably drumming up support or licking his wound somewhere on the Iron Islands. So where do you think he is?
Good question. I think he's still in the Iron Islands personally.
Yeah, but
Euron is raiding right now on the western coast of Westeros. So
Euron is on the shields.
He's on the shields. He recently sacked. He basically. I think he killed or kidnapped a bunch of the lords there. And I think he made one of his. He became a lover to one of the bastard daughters of one of the lords there.
I think so.
Had all his the lords like trueborn daughters and wife like act as servants or whatever it was. So quite interesting twist of fate there.
Oh yeah.
Of course, in the north there were some Iron Men, but clearly they weren't doing so well because that's where Asha Greyjoy was, and now they've been killed off or kidnapped or whatever. So There's no place for him there. So I think,
No.
truthfully, the Iron Islands is the only place he could really be found at this moment.
Yeah, and do you think his goal will remain unresolved? Like, do you think he'll actually succeed in drumming up support for himself?
I feel like with his character, they could maybe play it off as a little... I don't think he's that central of a character in the sense I don't think his actions are going to affect the world that greatly, but I do think that perhaps when the whole Iron Islands succession issue gets resolved, or it is resolved in a sense, but I mean once, the whole tension between Euron and Victarion comes to head, I think maybe he'll try to take over the Iron Islands for himself
I was thinking about that too.
And probably just get deposed easily. Even though he
I don't see
want
how much support he would have. But I do think that if he was to gather support from everyone in the Iron Islands, all the fisher folk, all the people that we don't really know about, the small folk.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that this is kind of one of the themes of the story that's coming more into fruition, is that the small folk come into play in the larger story.
Okay.
Kind of like the sparrows.
Right. I was going to actually say that because there's a really strong, not connection, but there's a strong parallel there between Euron Greyjoy and the High Sparrow.
Yeah. So I wonder if he will foment a kind of insurrection from within the Iron Islands.
Very possible. Well, that was a question I had to ask actually, because we don't really know how religious or fanatical the average Iron Islander is when it comes to the drowned god.
Yeah.
I would assume not just as much as any other average person in Westeros is of the seven gods, or Northmen might be of the old gods. But of course, like you say, if the kind of troubles that are brewing in King's Landing or in the not the Riverlands, but like the general region of Westeros, south of the north, kind of plays out in the Iron Islands. I feel like this chaos could definitely allow religious fanaticism to arise within the Iron Islands and kind of push Aaron Greyjoy's religiousness to a head, and maybe of course given that all the like we've discussed before, the magic train in the world has a role to play with these religious groups kind of gaining power. I mean, not necessarily directly, but there seems to be some kind of a weird thing going on where all these these magical elements are occurring, and religion seems to be gaining a lot of power now. So of course in the Iron Islands it's going to be like a little, not a microcosm, but like a smaller representation of stuff going on in the larger world, like it is in King's Landing with the High Sparrow coming into power and stuff. So I don't know. At the end of the day, I think his role, I think he'll probably try to act as some kind of quote unquote usurper, try to take over the Iron Islands. He'll probably realize that he is the king for the Iron Islands, and then he'll probably just get cast down at some point. That's just my hunch, though. I don't know. Obviously, that's my thought on that matter.
Do you think that he would accept support from somebody else to kill Euron? From Northmen, or I doubt he could get support from the Greenlands or the Reach, because his brother's basically reaving there. But
would he want his brother to be killed overtly, or do you think?
Well, he would never.
He wouldn't do it himself, but do you think he'd want to happen inadvertently, maybe his brother gets killed by accident or something? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, because even Euron didn't do it directly. At least we don't know.
Yeah.
If he did, then, and that's what Aaron suspects, then he is right to say that he's a kinslayer. But how far away from the killing do you have to be to not be a kinslayer?
That's true. If your actions only inadvertently cause the death of your brother, let's say you going, how like you said, how close to the occurrence to the event do you have to be to convince
I wonder. This is medieval logic here, right?
Exactly.
A lot of things are not necessarily clear.
I feel if you're directly, if you directly order, or if you directly kill your brother, then it's considered kingslaying.
Or if you order somebody to order somebody else.
Or if you order somebody to kill somebody else who then realizes you ordered them to get killed, then decides to kill your brother. I don't know. Are you therefore inadvertently involved in that kinslaying? So therefore you're kinslayer. I don't know. There's all these what if situations, obviously. So
we should do some Westeros logic videos.
We definitely should. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Aaron Greyjoy. I don't know if you had anything else to add.
No, that's it for me.
Yeah, I don't think that. Is that all for our characters today, or do we have anything else?
Other than those ones, if you guys have any suggestions, we can definitely talk about it in the comments or anything like that.
Please leave suggestions for other videos we should do. If
you have any
characters you think we might have forgotten to discuss in this video, by all means, we kind of just discuss the main ones that have seemed to have disappeared for a while, and kind of will likely play a bigger role, I think, and we think in the story, at least some form of a significant role. So yeah, please leave us comments, feedback, tell us if we've gone wrong on any of our information points, correct us by all means, or provide us with your own theories and thoughts and ideas for these disappeared characters or any other characters that might have disappeared or will come back in some form. So That's all for now.
Yeah, that's it.
Anyway, that's all. Take care. Please feel free to like and subscribe this video if you enjoyed, and we will definitely be back again soon with another discussion video at some point. I have a few videos coming up as well, like I've promised for a while. They're coming soon. So stay tuned, and thanks for watching, folks. Bye.